Hey, hey, hey. What is up, everybody? Come on in the room. We thank you so much for joining us for our next installment of Brown Girls Glow Live. Yep, this is the Glow Girl edition. And today we have, of course, a special guest with you. But first, just going to tell you a little bit about what this show is on. So, Brown Girls Glow Live is a series that highlights women from different industries, and we just talk about how they achieve their biggest dreams, how young women can do the same. All right. So I'm Mia Hall. I went from the hood to Harvard, and I have an organization called Brown Girls Glow, and I'm looking to tell others to do the same. I came out with a book called Glow Girl that is available for pre order now. All the links are in my bio. All right, so today I am so excited to be introducing our special guest for the L in GLOW, which is lead. Now remember, GLOW stands for grow, lead, overcome, and win. All right, for the Glow Girl book, that is what it stands for. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest, Reverend Fee, while I bring her up because I like to have her on stage while I'm doing this. So y'all give her a round of applause. Woo! Yes. Yeah. All right. So Reverend Fee Sylvester is a dynamic leadership and organizational development executive with over 15 years of experience helping individuals and organizations unlock their full potential. As a credentialed expert in learning, design, and facilitation, a master leadership coach, and a trusted consultant, she brings research driven, people centered approach to professional and personal growth. Holding an MS in organizational leadership and behavior, she is also an organizational leadership research scholarship researcher and psychometric instrument practitioner, which uniquely positions her to equip leaders with the insights they need to navigate complexity and clarity with confidence. At the heart of her work and passion is learning science, psychology, and leadership development. She seamlessly integrates these disciplines to create transformative learning experiences. As the founder and CEO of her own firm, Igneo Impact, and you can let me know if I'm saying that right later,
You
she
got it.
partners. Okay, good. She partners with organizations to build high impact learning programs, foster emotional intelligence, and drive sustainable performance strategies. Beyond her professional results, she is deeply committed to her faith, creativity, and serving as reverend worship leader, writer, speaker, and musician. Her deepest passion is being a vessel for the transformative presence of God. She has served in ministry for over 25 years. Come on, somebody. And considers her greatest honor to be walking alongside God's people as they walk towards Christ. Known for her warm, engaging presence and strategic mindset, Reverend Fee is dedicated to empowering others, whether in the boardroom, the classroom, through music and ministry. Y'all give a round of applause for my sister. Fee.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Thanks for
Yes,
having
and
me.
I wanted to yes, I wanted to get you on for a while. So, now I'm glad to, just have you here, of course, with us. So yeah, so let's get you started. So who is Afia?
Who is Afia? That is a dynamic question, right? Because it's like, how much time do we have to really get into it? But right. To make a long story short, I would really say primarily I'm a vessel of God, right? I am a multi hyphenate creative person, but also I like to say I'm equal parts right left brain, equal parts like art science type of person. The Lord was really kind in how he designed me, and it was all for his glory. And so I would say that I'm a person that loves to connect with other people. I love to be creative. I love to also just think deeply about life and all things that just center the human experience, the beauty of being here on this planet. So that's a little bit about who Afia is.
I love it. I love it. Okay. And we want to know who young Afia was. So when you were growing up as a young woman, what were some of your biggest dreams?
So, as a young woman, funny enough, I wanted to be on Broadway. right? I wanted to be, so it's crazy, right? Because what I do now compared to that, you really probably wouldn't have put them together. But it speaks to that
A little
multi-hyphenate.
bit. I won't say,
Yeah.
let me just stop right there, because the way that you perform, well, the way that you minister, but you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like in your ministry, y'all, I just want to tell you, I just got to insert this right here, how I know Afia. I have seen her as a worship leader, as a minister. She preached down, okay? So I'm just gonna say it's not far, you know what I'm saying? Like you just on a different stage. It might not be on Broadway, it
Yeah.
might be, on another Broadway, you know what I'm saying? But
Yes.
I just gotta stop you. Like I don't say it's too far-fetched,
Ah,
because your stage presence, the way you, just the way you just, I mean, kill it like every time. You know what I mean? I know that's not
praise
what
God.
you're trying to really make people live, not die, but
Come
you became
on. That part, right?
so I'm so sorry. I just had to stop it right there. Like, listen,
Thank you, friend.
okay, it's not
I
far-fetched.
appreciate that. Praise God. Yeah. I mean, so thank you. Thank you for that affirmation. You see, this is what brown girls do. But
All right.
so yeah, but as a child, I was drawn to performing arts. I was drawn to anything that was people centered, connecting with people, using creative mediums to just tell a story that mattered, right? A story that inspired, that either brought healing or hope or something beautiful to people, right? Just share that with them. So I guess I see what you're saying, right? Because there's a connective tissue in all of that. So God knew what he was doing. But I also grew up an only child. So I'm now the oldest of four biological siblings. And honestly, just I have a lot of chosen family and siblings and stuff like that too. But grew up an only child. So spent a lot of time just in the arts, reading and like writing and stepping and dancing and singing and doing all the things. I was a preacher's kid, so I was always in the church. And I was blessed that our church had all the activities. So young Afia was very busy and very creative and just very sweet. Just wanted to be in space with other folks.
I love it. I love it. And where did you grow up? Just so people could know, you know what I'm saying, where you were
Yeah.
doing all of these things.
So I'm not sure if you've heard of it. I grew up in a small town called New York City. Just a
Oh,
little, it's a little town. I don't know if you could point it out on a map. Shout out to you. But right. So I grew up in Brooklyn, New
hilarious.
York. Yeah, and so
Come
I was doing all
on.
of that. I was actually the church I grew up in was actually in East New York, Brooklyn. Okay, so we weren't
Come
playing. We was
on.
Brooklyn bred.
That's what I represent. Ian
Yeah.
Watts. So
Mhm.
awesome, awesome. Okay, well, and now I want you to talk a little bit about your time, as a teenager, right? So, what high school did you go to, and how did your high school help you, or what did you do in high school that helped you to prepare for college?
Oh, that's a good question. So I went to Murrow, and the thing about people from Brooklyn, we get really right, exactly, or just people from New York City, we just get really excited about our high school. So you said that, and I got all hyped like Murrow. But anyway, I went to Murrow, Edward R. Murrow High School, and I actually went to that school through the music program.
Okay.
So I had to audition and I was admitted into music. But what was interesting was I got into Murrow and then I wanted to kind of pivot. I was trying to go to another school, right? So I was trying to transfer out. And the Lord in God's sovereignty was like, no. There's something that I got for you here, right? And so what's so powerful about my high school story is that it was through my school that not only did I find the spiritual formation, because I made a lot of the lifelong friends that to this day are not only my friends in my village, but my confidants in the spiritual realm as well, my prayer partners and all of that. I was able to engage in a bunch of clubs and become a leader in a lot of respects. Served on student government, served in the Christian club, and all these things. What the Lord was like, no, I have need of you in the gospel choir and in all of these like different show choirs that we would travel around and compete and all of that. There were so many parts of who I was, even as a writer and as a social scientist and all of these things that were birthed in school. And I didn't know that's what was going on. So even when I tried to pivot and leave and go to another school, God was like, no, you need to stay right here.
I
As God
love
does.
it.
hmm
Yes, yes. Okay. And then so you went, yes, I remember you preaching on this because I was like, this sounds a little bit familiar,
Yeah.
but yeah, I remember you preached and you told us a little bit, about your story and the people that inspired you there. So
Yeah.
so how did you, you said that, your passion for, the church and for even social sciences, I think you might have said social or
hmm
science,
hmm
are there. So So what was that? You know what I mean? Tell us, like, how did you get interested in your, career path, and how did that happen? And then where did that lead you when you were in, like, thinking about next steps, thinking about life after high school?
Yeah. So I think that there was an introduction in high school, although I didn't necessarily know that's what it was. So I found myself
Mhm.
drawn to and called to leadership very early on, and that manifested itself in high school through serving in several different forms of student government and as a leader in several different clubs, and often finding myself as a leader even in some of the artistic spaces, right? Through the choirs, through the music program. And so that part was birthed out, and I always had a passion for servant leadership. To me,
Mm,
leadership was all about serving the people, helping to either guide or steer them in certain directions, hold space for them, create room for them to be themselves, to flourish, to advocate for them. All of those different aspects was what was naturally emerging, but I really didn't know that's what it was, right? I couldn't have language at the time for it. And so, interestingly enough, that was kind of like the precursor, even taking social studies and English and being able to really play in those spaces, taking drama and realizing like there's a way that you can take social sciences and history and like things like anthropology and marry them with the arts to serve people. Sign me up, right? So all
mm,
of that naturally came up for me, and it wasn't until hindsight that I looked back as an adult and reflected on those things. I was like, there was always some evidence of what I was supposed to be doing. Even speaking, right? Teaching, always finding myself in these opportunities to really use my voice to advocate for people and to inspire people. And so you fast forward then to college. I am a first generation American, right? So I'm a proud West
mm.
Indian American. And so with that, there was a very prescribed expectation for us, right? Like you had a narrow way because what you was about to do is be successful and make some money for your family, right? And so I realized that at first, like usually how that showed up, and for me, how it showed up was like, you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, pick one. And I thought about it. I was like, I don't really think either's working out for me, right? I'm not trying to be in school that long. Y'all are doing a bit much. And so my family was like, all right, then accounting, nursing, pick one of those. I ended up going to college for accounting. And even in that experience, I hated it. So like that's the end of that story, right? I got into this accelerated program, was going to graduate with my master's in this like short time span, but I pivoted out of it.
Mm,
Why? Because I had no passion for that work. And the
mm,
work that I was passionate about was serving people. It
mm.
was the social sciences, it was leadership, it was organizational development and helping systems and people within organizational systems grow and thrive. So again, that through line kept finding its way back to me.
Oh, wow. Wow. I love that. And what college did you go to?
So I started off at Old Westbury, the unofficial HBCU of New York. If you know, you know. So
Okay.
Studio Old Westbury, I started off, and I graduated from Nyack College.
Okay, awesome, awesome. So that
Mhm.
faith, you know, wanted to be, going to a Christian college and becoming a minister. Okay, okay. I love that, love that. So, in being able to do that, being able to pivot, even though, your parents, they had these certain expectations of you, but you had to pivot. Who were some of your biggest influences in you, like going into what your heart was, leading you to do? Who was like one of your a woman that was one of your biggest influences growing up?
Yeah, so I definitely would have to shout out Oprah. There was a
Okay.
lot of inspiration I found in Oprah in ways that I did not even, again, at the time, I wasn't always very clear on what was drawing me to her, but I just knew I was drawn to her, right? So again, hindsight is 2020. So some of
Mm,
what really showed up for me was the Super Soul Sundays, right? And that
mm,
just human connection, sitting down, having a powerful conversation with people about their journey and how they got to where they are and what inspired them and what were the ways that hope was manifested in and through them so that they can really live out this purposeful life. Those kinds of things, right? Even on her show, I would tune in, I would come home, run to watch Oprah, even young, right? You would think I wasn't the target demographics per se, but God knew I needed to see it, right? But seeing her sit down and just have these really meaningful conversations that were inspiring. People were in tears in the audience. People's lives were being changed. Her even using like her influence through like I forgot what it was called, but when she would Oprah's favorite things, right? Being able
mm,
to serve and like just kind of transform people's lives through these experiences. I was drawn to that. And then seeing her act and realizing like, oh, you could also be an artist, right? You can also bring this in. Sign me up. So it was really the beauty of the human experience that I saw her being able to create space for, drew me there. And another person I would say really quickly, it was my mom. My mom is powerful woman of God, prayer warrior, prophetess, all of these things, incredibly strong and resilient. So there was so much of that that was being birthed and honed in me through her leadership and guidance. And then the funny part that maybe much to her chagrin at first, she's a little spicy. She's a strong one, right? And so she doesn't really take too much from people. And I think that really showed up for me in being able to say, I'm going to have to take a path that's true to me and not necessarily the path that was prescribed for me. And it was because I did that I found my way to what I do now, because no one outlined for me, oh, you can be a leadership executive and do people operations and do work in that space, because we really didn't even know that was accessible to us. So it was through some of that bravery and that strength to kind of go down the uncharted path that she showed me, I was able to leverage that and become who I am now.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And please tell the people, because I don't even think I know, where is your mom from?
She's from Trinidad.
Trinidad.
Yeah, so most of my family's from Trinidad. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Trinidad, represent.
Yeah.
So in that, right, because you said like you didn't even know that it was a possibility. Can you explain, like, as you would to a high school girl, what is organizational leadership, and development as a career? Like if they're saying, oh, I like leadership, I do this in high school, like, maybe I can look at that as a career. Can you just explain like, what that career would entail for them?
Yeah, so it might show up in many different ways, right? It might show up in human resources. So that's where I sit right now. But I've also done this work in other spaces within different organizational contexts. So what that really means is you are helping organizations. So any business, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's a church, whether it's a corporate space, you're helping that business understand the power of the leaders that are there and empowering those leaders to lead well. So giving them the skills and the tools and the strategies to be able to lead people well. Because the reality is, if someone is leaving an organization that they work for or they work with, more often than not, it's really because they're leaving the leadership, right? There might have been some tension or contention with the way that people led them, or some interactions, whether they're social interactions or just the way things are run, was not serving them or working for them. And that's can be mitigated, or that can be addressed through being intentional about developing the leaders in organizations, developing the people in organizations, and giving them the skills to do their job well, to work well together, and to achieve the mission of the organization as a whole. So that's the work that I do.
I love that. And thank you for sharing that. That's important. You know what I mean? Like every organization needs it. So, okay. And then, I would be remiss to, not ask you about your ministry as well, because that, I know that's a big part, of your servant work. So first, can you just tell us, like, it sounds like, I know you said that you grew up in a church in East New York, but how did you, how do you feel like you personally, like, came to know Christ? Like when did it become personal for you?
Yeah, I love that question. So I grew up, like I said, as a preacher's kid. So I was essentially born in the church, right? Almost born in the pew, basically, right? But so I was always in church, right? That was exactly right. So that was given to me by way of just like our family, right? And what was our heritage and our history. But I came to know Christ at a really early age through relationship. Right? I really have to just say God was faithful, and the Holy Spirit was faithful to reveal himself to me early on. I felt like this call to spend time with God through worship and have an encounter. I would have this, like, through singing or through music or through prayer, realize something's happening here. I feel different. I feel like someone's with me. Like, all these things that at a really young age, you may not necessarily have language to articulate, but you recognize that there's beauty and there's peace and there's joy. And there's a love that you're sensing when you spend time doing the thing that your parents keep talking about. And so from really early on, I had that experience. And God knew that it would be formative for me because I found my way to music and to singing and to worship leading and being able to be a conduit for God's presence, the presence that I got to experience as a little girl in my own little bedroom, in my own little prayer closet before I even knew what a prayer closet was. And I got to experience it in the context of an actual congregation through music and through art. And that really was the birthplace of my relationship with God as well as my ministry.
I love that. And what an amazing ministry you have. Everybody, I know I'm going to ask you for, your social and, that everybody follow you and follow the journey, at the end. But I definitely just, even as you talk, I'm just like, I love it. Okay. So what's the best advice that you've received as it relates to your career?
And again, how much time do we got? Because I got so much to say, but I will keep it brief. I have been blessed, and I'll say this real quick before I get to the specific advice. Surround yourself with and pray for good counsel, right? Great mentors and great peers, right? If you notice someone doing something that is inspiring you, that you either look up to or you think that you can walk alongside people, definitely be willing to start that conversation with people to say, hey, I really like what you're doing. Can we talk more about it? If it's a mentor, potential mentor, or someone who's like a further along on their professional journey, let them know, hey, what you're doing is something that I'm really interested in. Can we have a conversation? So I just that's a free tidbit, right? That was really a powerful help for me throughout my career. But to answer your question directly, right? What was the most profound or important advice? One of the things that's top of mind for me is Sabbath. And I remember, and it's so unconventional, and that's why I feel so compelled to share that, especially with my brown girls who are glowing, right, who are trying to figure it out. As much as you feel compelled to be productive and to be high performing, right, get things done, do things well, work hard, all of that is important. But I remember when I was starting grad school, the head and the person who designed our graduate school program, she came to our orientation and she told us, look, you're in an accelerated program. It is an executive program. So I was also working full time, like lots of hours. I was in doing HR business partnering, which is like a really intense type of strategic initiative at this huge organization. Then I had the nerve to take on, or I felt called to take on this other, to really start grad school and take on this other responsibility. And she said something. She said, hey, this is going to be a lot, essentially. I'm paraphrasing. And so because of that, you must prioritize your Sabbath rest, taking the time to rest and to still yourself. And so as a Christian, and as a clergy person, I would be remiss if I do not offer that advice, because I think sometimes culture, and by culture, I just mean like the Western culture that we're all a part of, many of us are a part of, right? The culture that says hustle and grind and go and get it done and be an entrepreneur and be an executive and be a leader and do all these things, can sometimes forget that we are also people as well. And as Christians, centering ourselves and giving ourselves time to hear from God, to hear what God is saying, to be replenished and fill our cup, to stay connected to Jesus, the vine, and to also center ourselves, to just be, to just enjoy the human experience. All of those things feed into what Sabbath is. It's rest, it's joy, it's making time for peace and prioritizing that. Doing that is also important too, because then when you are doing the working and the leading, right, and you're in that performance or productive mode, right, you're coming from a place of pouring out of a full cup and not an empty cup, pouring from the overflow so that you're not depleted, but instead you're energized and you're able to give and to serve and to do things from a place of having that energy really be a full flow for you. So that's something that's really important. Also making time to just be a person, to center joy and to center peace as well as rest.
I love that. Okay, and just one more question for you, on leadership, because today's episode, the title is a lead. Definitely teaching young girls how to lead. So, what would you tell your 16-year-old self about what it means to be a leader? What it means to lead?
Yeah, I would tell her that leadership shows up in many different contexts, right? It's not only what she thought it looked like, right? So leadership is not only in a boardroom or at a pulpit or at this senior position in like government or all these things that you would think of. Leadership is also if you're the person in your friend group that people come to for advice. If you're that person in your family, you find yourself being the older cousin or the older sister or whatever the case is, if you find yourself often being a person of influence in the lives of those around you, that is leadership. And your leadership is valuable, it's important, it matters, and it has a ripple effect in the lives of people around you, even if it doesn't fall within those contexts that we're used to seeing, right? And I just want to affirm that for my 16-year-old self, as well as anyone else who finds that to be true for them. It doesn't have to be only when you get, let's say, the letters after your name, right? Like the MS or the MD or the Esquire, right? It's not only if you have these other accolades, but just showing up as yourself and raising your hand to say, hey, you can choose me, you can lean on me. That is leadership. And that is valuable and that matters. And you can hone that. You can develop that. You can learn more about that. You can read books and develop your skills to continue to do that work because it is meaningful in whatever context you find yourself doing it within.
Yes, A to the
Amen.
Thank you so much for that. I love that. Great advice. You are just an amazing minister, an amazing mom. Shout out to Chloe, because I know you have it. Just let people know where they can find you, how they can follow you. And I definitely hope that you'll join us back on the show again, because I feel like we did
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Listen, anytime, 100%. I would love to be back. Thank you for having me. It's an honor. And I just want to affirm you for a moment, like this space that you have created and have stewarded. I just want to honor how powerful and important it is. These are conversations that our girls need to hear, right? And so making sure that you're making it accessible to them so they can hear the things they need to hear as they feel led and build the careers that they feel compelled to. I just want to affirm how powerful and important that is. So giving you your flowers in real time.
Thank you. That means a lot.
That's one thing. And then so folks can find me at Chief_Ignition_Officer, the Chief Ignition Officer, right? I really believe that I'm called to ignite people into purpose and into intentional lives as leaders so that they can lead well and live well, right? You can have harmony in both spaces. So Chief_Ignition_Officer. And you can also follow my business page. It's at Ignio Impact. Ignio's IGNIO Impact. And all of that's on Instagram. You can also find me on Facebook, but you find one, you'll find me on the others, right? And stay tuned because there's so much coming down the pipeline for my business and in all the different ways that I get to serve our people and serve people in general. So stay tuned. More to come.
Amen. I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Reverend Fee. Y'all make sure y'all follow her. I'll put everything in the show notes. Man, y'all just give her one more round of applause.
Oh, thank you guys. I'm so glad I was here.
We'll see y'all next week. Bye.
See you.